Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I am your host, Dr. Renee Jordan, and today we're going to take a look at a blog post that I have from September 2018, and the title of it is Check Out Your Options. Before you complete any college admission applications, go on a few tours, see not only what the school has to offer, but get a sense of what life is like on campus. Breathe in the air, taste the food, and find out what it's like to travel from home to the school and back. To help my goddaughter to get a feel for different colleges, I took her and two more of my nieces, her little sisters, out to see Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Penn State University, and University of Maryland College Park in 3 back-to-back day trips. After hours on the road, tolls, a lot of walking, and Philly cheesesteaks from Max Steaks, bring cash, there were 2 votes for Temple and 1 for College Park. Note, to all those applying to school, undergraduate school is as good as it gets. Enjoy the process. So that blog post is about me taking my goddaughter, who's also my niece, out to see a few schools. She was interested in becoming someone who worked in HR or a journalist or an EMT. She already had a few schools picked out if she wanted to become an EMT. So this college tour was to help her figure out what school she might want to attend if she indeed wanted to move forward with becoming an HR person or a journalist. And so I looked up colleges that had excellent programs and listed them, and specifically those in Pennsylvania and in Maryland. The 2 votes that were for Temple were from her little sisters. They thought it was very lively. They did not have such an opinion of Penn State. And then the other vote for College Park was from my goddaughter, who was a senior at the time. So I took her at the beginning of her senior year of high school so that she could explore what campuses look like. Now, as we took our tours, we made sure to get food near the colleges so that we could actually taste the options that she would have available if she decided to go to those schools. The 2 youngest nieces thought that College Park had the coolest cafeteria. Just in case you didn't know, I have a lot of nieces and nephews. I'm up to 16 right now. So that's 11 nieces, 5 nephews, and I might have that count wrong. So don't quote me on it. But I have a lot of nieces and nephews. And I want to make sure those who are interested in going to college get the chance to explore. And so by taking out my goddaughter, she was able to not only see schools that might be of interest to her, my other 2 nieces were also able to get exposure to what campuses look like in different places. That way I got a 3-for-1 deal. Now these 2 little nieces, a few years later, also accompanied me as I took out another niece. So one of my nieces, while she was at the start of her 11th grade year, decided that she was interested in art and hospitality, and technology. As a result, I took a look at different schools that had outstanding programs, and I also shared those programs with her so that she can see the different schools that were known for offering programs that were reputable in those disciplines. These schools were not limited to the DMV, but because my budget was limited, when I said that I would take her on a college tour, I limited the tour to the DMV area. So the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And when we went out, I took her and the 2 little nieces out to 3 different schools. We went to Virginia Commonwealth University. We also made it out to Towson University. And the last stop was Morgan State. Now, we weren't able to go in, but we did drive by the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. While in Baltimore, we made a stop at a soul food restaurant that was absolutely wonderful. I'm going to have to go back and try the food again for myself. We had to wait a long time, but my niece who graduated from Morgan State recommended the place, and it was definitely worth the wait. I'll have to ask her the name of it again so that I can visit it by myself myself whenever I get ready. When you go on college tours, make sure you stop by the classrooms that you would be in. See what it's like. What kind of technology do they have in those rooms? Also, if you're going to go and you know you're going to have to take lab classes, make sure that you go to the science buildings and check out their labs and see what they're like. Compare them to the other schools. Not all schools are created equal. And you want to make sure that when you're visiting them, they have the equipment, the technology, and the resources that will help you along your way. Since my niece was interested in art, we went to a number of art studios and we were able to see the different setups and the different types of equipment that they had available. Once again, we did explore the food that was near the schools. In the case of my niece, who was interested in art, technology, and hospitality, we took a full day to make it out to Virginia Commonwealth University and explore. And then the next day, we were able to do both Towson and Morgan State at the same time. Now, we weren't able to get inside of the classrooms at Morgan State, but we were able to get close enough to some brand new dorms that they had. Now, when I went to College Park with my goddaughter, we were able to walk through a model of what a suite or a bedroom would look like on campus. Make sure that you get an in-person feel for what the places look like. Now, even though we couldn't go inside the college housing at Morgan State, we could definitely tell that the new college housing was definitely state of the art and it looked magnificent. Before going off to college myself, I had a few experiences with college campuses. When I was going from 7th to 8th grade, I was able to do a summer program at George Washington University. And the following summer, I was able to do that same program, but the second time we stayed in a different dorm. I fell in love with George Washington University and knew that I wanted to go there. So I made sure that I took a look at the requirements. In short, I would need 4 years of some core classes, and I would need to make sure that I took some advanced classes on top of that. I also needed 3 years of a foreign language, and I knew that I had to shoot for the stars when it came to my GPA and SAT scores. Another college campus that I got to explore was Howard University. Both of my parents went to Howard University, and so for that reason, I was not fond of going, but I had the opportunity to participate in a program at Howard University, and as a result, I had the chance to explore their campus, explore their different buildings, as well as get a feel for what it's like to actually be on the campus of Howard University. Although I did not choose Howard University in the end, at least I got the chance to see what it was like and compare it to my other experience. The school that I ended up choosing was one that was persistent in recruiting me. They sent me letters, they sent me notes, they sent me postcards. They kept in contact with me until I decided to say, hey, I think I want to take a look at their campus. So my dad took me out and we went and explored Hood College in Frederick, Maryland, a college that I was not thinking about at all. It wasn't even on my radar. I was thinking about George Washington University, of course. I was going to apply to Howard University just to see what happened. I also applied to American University as well as George Mason University. And after going to Hood College, checking out their campus, seeing the options, and weighing what my financial package would look like compared to the other schools, I was done. I picked Hood College and I was very glad that I did. It was a small school, and at the time, it was a women's only residential college. Men could commute, however, they could not live on campus at the time. The year that I graduated was the same year that the school decided to open housing to men. And they did that because they did their research and found out that women colleges who went co-ed in terms of residencies actually increased enrollment. And it wasn't because they had a sudden surge in men attending the school, but they had a surge in women attending the school. Now, I must say Hood College is doing an outstanding job. I went to my 20-year reunion and the campus is still pristine. Explore the small liberal arts colleges that pursue you. They might have the capacity to give you the attention and hands-on assistance in terms of navigating your undergraduate years that bigger schools schools might not have the capacity to offer you. You should decide for yourself what it is that you want when you go off to school. Think about the whole package, not only the campus and the technology and the equipment and the resources and the faculty and the student services that are available and the food that's around the campus, but how does it make you feel when you are walking on campus? Do you feel like you belong, or do you feel like you're a stranger? Do you feel like you're welcome there, or do you feel like you're kind of a bother? Do you feel like that you can see yourself there for 4 years? That's a good amount of time. It's going to fly by, because I hope that you have fun, and time flies when you're having fun, but it's a long time if you're not going to enjoy it. So the choice is yours. I encourage students to make the decision for themselves. Yes, parents have a say, especially if they are going to pay. So I will stay out of that conversation. But if they're not paying for it, and you get the scholarships and you get the packaging that is appealing and affordable to you, then go for it and do just that. Now, there are people who say a college education is not what it used to be. Now, that might be true for some groups. However, getting a college education when you belong to a group that is underrepresented can be life-changing. It can change your financial trajectory. So for those of you who might not be coming from homes where money is more than abundant, they could pay for school in cash, and all you have to do is show up, then maybe your story is different from mine. I needed to make sure that I got a college education for myself to make sure that I could earn a good amount of money in order to live the life that I would like to live. Now, if I wasn't going to college, then I definitely would have needed to go to a trade school or to the military in order to make sure that my financial future was secure. While some have the option to stay at home, live off their parents, and live off the interests of their trust fund, some people have to work. And so take a look at what the alumni of that college are known to do. See where their students go to after they graduate. Are they getting employed at higher rates than other schools? These are other questions that you need to consider when you're choosing a school. Some schools can push a lot of students through, but at the end, they're not getting the jobs that they want. This is important information to consider. If you can find the Alumni Association, or if you can find a group that has those who graduated from the school, if you can find someone on LinkedIn and say, oh, look, this person went to this school, let me ask them about their experience. Do that. Get the inside scoop. Find out from people who actually went to the school what they thought about it. Also, talk to current students. When they're recruiting you, they should be getting you in contact with students who are currently attending the school so that they can share their experience with you. And when you speak to them, make sure that you talk to someone who might be coming from a similar background as you so that they can share how their transition went. Now, I didn't end up going to George Washington University, but because their standards were so high, I was accepted at all of the schools, because from that point on, from middle school, I knew that I wanted to go to George Washington. I knew I wanted to go to college. And my mother pulled me aside before high school and said, hey, if you want to go to college, you're going to have to get a scholarship. And I took that literally and understood exactly what she meant. And so since I wanted to go to college, I knew that I was going to have to put in some hard work in order to get there. So knowing that you want to go to school and having an idea of where you want to go to school can help you if you start early. If you start later, then you might have to make some adjustments in your final years to make sure that you have an application that is appealing to the school. Not only are they interested in high grades as well as high test scores for those schools that are still keeping scores, or for those schools that are still taking standardized test scores, but they also want to know that you are a well-rounded person. So make sure that you are involved in organizations and leadership positions in those organizations. Even if it's secretary, that's still a leadership role. It means that you're not just there showing up and saying you're a part of something, but you're taking on responsibilities and being accountable for how that organization moves forward. One of the things that I was well known for was taking notes. And so I served as the SGA secretary secretary in college, and I also served as the secretary of the gospel ensemble, and I held other positions in the gospel ensemble as well, including director and president. Before going off to undergraduate school, I was heavily involved in my church with the choir. I was also involved in volunteering. I did my community service way early by volunteering at a daycare during my summers. Now, the daycare was the same daycare that my little brothers went to, but hey, I volunteered and I was able to clock the hours that I needed. And then the following summer, I was able to return and get paid as a part-time employee. When you're applying to schools, you will need letters of recommendation. Now, I've done an episode on letters of recommendation, so I'll give the short version here. Make sure that you are memorable. When you're in classes, when you are shadowing people over the summer, when you are volunteering, when you are working, make sure that you're conducting yourself in a way that allows people to remember how you made them feel while you were working with them. What was your work ethic like? Could they count on you to do things and to get it done? Can they count on you to follow up and show that you have finished and you're ready for another task? Can they count on you to ask questions in order to get clarity? Can they count on you to take down notes so that you know what steps you need to follow when there are processes involved in the work that you need to do? Make sure that you're memorable in class by speaking up, sharing your thoughts and opinions during discussions, as well as asking clarifying questions or even questions that you're just wondering about the subject matter to show that you're interested in what's happening in class. Now, it's important that you are memorable so that when you ask them for a letter of recommendation, whether it's a teacher, a coworker, a supervisor, the person who you reported to as a volunteer or an intern, whether it is even one of your classmates who served as a co-leader of an organization, make sure that you're memorable so that when you ask them for a letter of recommendation or to serve as a reference, they will be able to think about how you made them feel while you worked with them. And you can help them out by drafting a letter of recommendation or a reference letter and highlighting the different high points that you had as a result of your experience with them. What were some of the projects that you worked on? What were some of the results that they were able to get from you as it relates to the actions that you took to accomplish a task? What were some of the outcomes of the projects or deliverables that you were able to produce? Were they able to increase their number of customers? Were they able to increase the number of processes that they were able to complete in a short amount of time or a specific period of time? What did you add to their organization while you were with them? How did you spend your time in a way that helps them and help to push the organization's mission, help to push the organization's vision, help to push or produce whatever it was that the organization wanted to accomplish? Visiting college campuses can give you insight as far as what it's like to actually be on campus. And that insight can be better than a video tour or a website. Now, if the school is far away, it's okay to make a call and say, hey, I still want to go, just because you can't get there. Chances are when you get there, you'll probably have to stay there until you graduate. Maybe you'll be able to come home during the summer, but if it's really far, those plane tickets can get very expensive. So think about it. Are you someone who likes to be around your family during the holidays? I had friends that were so far away that they couldn't go home for Thanksgiving. They actually had to stay on campus because it didn't make sense for them to go home for Thanksgiving and then turn around and go back home for winter break. And so one of my friends during my freshman year, I invited home for Thanksgiving, and we're still friends to this day. If we're talking about distance from school, some people might decide to be commuters, and that means that you travel to and from school instead of staying on campus. One of my friends commuted headed to the University of Maryland College Park. She didn't even have her license until her parents told her she was going to the University of Maryland College Park. Not only did she get her license, she also got a car to get herself there and back. So if you're going to be commuting, take a look at what traffic is like. When is the best time to leave for class? Where is parking on campus? And if you're living on campus, are you allowed to have your car? Sometimes freshmen are not allowed to have their car on campus because they want to make sure that they're being safe and being confined to campus so that they are getting used to being on campus as opposed to being on campus and being out and about during the school year. So think about that as well. What is traffic like? Are you allowed to have your car on campus? What is public transportation like around the school? Would it be a better idea to take the train and then hop on the shuttle bus to get to class? Now, talking about getting to class, whether you live on campus or you're commuting to campus, how far apart are these buildings? Sometimes schools seem to be small, but when you get there, you find out things are miles apart. So that's something to take into consideration as well. And that can help you plan your schedule. With my goddaughter, who was starting her senior year of high school, we were able to schedule tours with the campuses. That was great because we got to go with a group and see different places on campus and ask questions to the students who were guiding us on the tour. With my niece, who was going to the 11th grade, we made up our tours ourselves. And so we just took out the maps, found out where the art buildings were, and went for it. My goddaughter decided to become an EMT, and she went to school just for that. She was able to finish her program and get started, and she is enjoying her career as an EMT. My other niece, who was in the 11th grade, is now at the end of her 11th grade year, entering into her senior year, and hopefully she'll narrow down her options or even explore some more to decide where she wants to go to school for herself. Some of the things that influenced my choice in selecting Hood College was the packaging that they gave me. They were offering me a sizable scholarship, and although I had an offer that was better than that one in terms of the amount or percentage of scholarship they were offering me, I knew that the environment was not going to set me up for success. I needed to be somewhere where things were organized in a way that I would be able to navigate being a student, as opposed to having to navigate the administrative parts that come along with being a student. I had a different experience as a result. I listened to some of the complaints that people who attended the other school had to say about the administration in terms of getting your schedule, in terms of getting into classes, in terms of pushing paperwork in order to make sure that you were advised properly, and all of the things that go on behind the scenes when it comes to going to college. Hood College was offering a much easier and relaxed process, and I did not want to take on the hardship of having to be my own administrative assistant and go to school at the same time. Now, when I decided to go to graduate school, I went to a school that also was a little rough when it came to administrative processes. But because I went through undergraduate school and got a good hold of what those things look like when it's done well, when I went to the school that had little difficulties with administrative processes, I was able to make sure that I had all of the paperwork that I needed and had a good understanding and grasp of those processes, so that when I had to navigate those administrative processes and be a student, it wasn't as rough for me because I had a plan. Not only did I have a plan, I had a spreadsheet. Not only did I have a spreadsheet, I had steps laid out. I had when I was going to take the classes. I had when I needed to check in with my advisor. I had when I needed to go see the registrar and the financial aid office, all of the above. I had things prepared when I went to graduate school to navigate those administrative tasks that come along with being a student. So when you're going on tours, when you're talking to people, ask them about those administrative processes. Sometimes it can be traumatizing. Sometimes students aren't able to get into classes that they need in a sequential order because of the difficulties that they experience. Now, you also have to pay attention to when classes are offered. Not all classes are offered every semester. Some are offered every other semester. Some are offered every 2 years. And sometimes those classes are the ones you need to graduate. Now, what I have done when in graduate school, I have taken classes out of order in order to make sure that I got the class in when I needed it. One of the classes that I needed in my PhD program was a critique of educational research. And someone told me, if that class is being offered, take it. Don't wait until you've taken all of your research classes and then take the class. Just take the class as soon as it's available because it's not offered frequently. So I did that. And as a result, I wasn't running around trying to find the class. I had completed the class and I was done with it. It was one of the more elusive classes, if you will. To circle back to my two youngest nieces' opinions of Temple and Penn State University, my nieces noted that Temple University was lively. The students were walking in a way that took over the space that they were in. And mind you, Temple University is an open campus. It's not closed off. You're in the city. And so they appreciated the feel of Temple University when they went. Now, when we went to Penn State University, I noticed that the students were walking in lines and there were no lines. Like, it reminded me of middle school or elementary school when you had to walk in lines. And I was just like, why are they walking in lines? You can walk wherever you want to walk. It was an interesting experience. Now, that's just what I experienced when I went. Perhaps it's not like that all the time, but it was definitely a difference between Temple University, where the students were going every which way, and Penn State, where everybody seemed to be in lines. When we went to College Park, it was the weekend. And so there weren't that many students who were up while we were on campus. We were there pretty early. But one thing that we could definitely get a feel for was how spaced out the buildings were compared to the other campuses that we went to. With all that being said, I want to encourage you to embrace the college admissions process. Check out your options. Look at all the schools you want to. You can dream as big as you want. Now, when it comes to reality, make sure that you consider, how are you going to get there? How will you pay for school? Or how will the school pay you to attend? That's even better. Also, consider the options of going to a liberal arts school, going to a school where you would get a bachelor's of science as opposed to a bachelor's of arts. Think about the size of the school. Think about the class size of the school. Some freshman classes in some places can have 200 students in it. Will you feel comfortable and confident in a class like that? That was not the case for me. One of the things that I really liked about Hood College was that the classroom sizes were familiar to me. They were small. They were not going to be larger than my high school classes. And that meant that this teacher would actually know my name. And that was very important to me. With all of your dreaming, make sure that you go out and get out and check out some college campuses for yourself. Check out the classrooms, check out the labs, check out the lecture halls, go to the library, see what resources are available. One thing that I noticed between two of my graduate schools was that one had more resources than the other. Anything that I could think of, one had, while the other one, the resources were scarce. And so that was a very different experience that I did not realize until after the fact, until I had all of the resources that I would need at my fingertips. Consider your options and ask around. With all that being said, I want to once again encourage you to consider your options and ask around. Make the decision for yourself. And if others are supporting you along the way, you will need to consider what they have to say as well. Once again, thank you for listening to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I am your host, Dr. Renee Jordan. And in case you haven't noticed, I have released another piece of artwork. This is Joki Kimani, and I have her in handy dandy notebooks, stickers, as well as phone cases. So you can check her out at Black-Liberation.Tech.creator-spring.com to purchase your merchandise. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I am your host, Dr. Renee Jordan, and until next time, take care. Bye-bye.